Grace and peace, everybody. Grace and peace. How's everybody doing this Tuesday evening? All right. We are here. We are up in the building. All right. You know what? I think I got live streams lined up from today until Saturday, maybe even possibly Sunday. All right. I think it's going to be a busy week. I got a lot of stuff I'm going to cover this week. But besides all of that, let's go ahead. Let's just go ahead and greet the fam. First off, we got Doki Bible Club up in the house. Grace and peace. Grace and peace. First support up in the house. Thank you for your continued patronage. We also got Here I Am. Grace and peace. We got Sister Jania. Grace and peace. Grace and peace. We got Brother Stevie Rankins. Grace and peace. How you doing? And we also got Sister Wendy up in the house. Another supporter up in the house. Thank you, sis, for your continued patronage. Then we also have Anthony Bardine. Says, I've seen so many from the RCC losing their minds since his videos. The KJV old crowd too. Uh-oh. I don't know if we're gonna talk about that tonight. But we also got Simon Phoenix up in the building. Grace and peace. Grace and peace, Simon Phoenix. But listen, man, y'all go ahead. Hit that like button. New subscribers, hit that notifications bell. So whenever I get ready to go live, I'll be the first ones here as soon as I hit that live button and whenever I upload a video. All right, we also got Richard Gonzalez, grace and peace. Marathon May, grace and peace. Then we also got my bruv up in the house, JP Uncut. He says, this is interesting. This is interesting. Grace and peace, grace and peace. JP Uncut. I know JP is going to be going live in about an hour. And to be honest, I don't even know how long I even want to cover this. I'm like, I don't really like getting into like smoke and beef and just going back and forth and, calling people's names out and stuff like that. I hope I don't have to mention any names because I really don't. I really just don't like getting in the back and forth with people. And I know some people are probably like, no, I mean, we think that's your character. You've been known for smoke. No, I've been known for challenging people on what they say. Not going at people personally and trying to personally attack them and make hit piece after hit piece. I don't do any of that stuff. So, right before I hopped on, I was thinking about playing a clip from a Roman Catholic who was just like, calling Wes Huff all types of names and just saying all types of egregious stuff. But I say, you know what? Let's just try to stick to the topic at hand. All right. Because I do want to cover a couple of things that was said by some other Roman Catholics who I believe that had a fair assessment of Wes Huff and the podcast that he's been on. So that's kind of what I want to get to. But within the midst of that, I'm starting to see a lot of these Roman Catholics crashing out over Wes Huff. And I think from what I'm hearing, one of the biggest reasons why people are crashing out over Wes Huff, or Roman Catholics in general, is because of his take on the canon. And I've watched a couple of the interviews where he's made some statements about the canon and the transmission of the text and all of that stuff. And there was a guy, I can't remember his name. You guys can put it in the chat. I was watching that video yesterday. I don't think that I finished it, where there was a guy who was a Catholic and he was talking about, or he was actually responding to Wes Huff and his view of the canon. And he was like really respectful. He wasn't like being belligerent and calling him names and stuff. He actually did a pretty good job. And he made some pretty decent, valid points when he was reviewing. Yes, it was. That's what it was. Grace and Peace Jose. It was Capturing Christianity. That's the guy I'm thinking of. I couldn't remember. I knew it was something Christianity. But yeah, I was watching that video and I think that he did a pretty good job. He was nice. He was fair. He was balanced. And to to be honest, as I started watching a lot of these interviews, I knew that this was going to come up because, Wes Huff, he's a Protestant. He's Reformed. All right. I don't know if he's Baptist or not. I think he might be Baptist. I'm not sure. I may have to look back into that. But if he is, So I already knew, especially when you got a lot of Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox who just totally despise Protestants. Nowadays, I knew that Wes Huff gaining steam, especially on his views about Protestantism, Christianity, in general, the text, the canon, and all of that. I knew that the next person I was going to be on his radar, or he was going to be on the Catholics' radar next. I knew that. You see what I'm saying? So, oh yeah, then Stevie Rankin says Garfield be banging on Wes Huff. Yeah, and the thing is, I understand why Garfield would take that approach, because Garfield is not really on the side of Wes Huff. I'm sorry, not Wes Huff, but the guy Billy Carson. He does believe that Billy Carson was just saying a whole bunch of just like, incredulous stuff, just idiotic stuff. But you got to remember, Garfield he's not a Christian. All right. So, and then, shouts out to Garfield. Garfield, he's a great guy. So I like Garfield, you know what I'm saying? And he is a fair and balanced guy, but I know that he does be banging on Wes Huff, and I haven't seen a lot of his stuff to make a determination on whether or not he's correct and Wes Huff is wrong, or Wes Huff is correct and he's wrong. So, but y'all already know I'm gonna ride with Wes for right now. But I think that this is going to be an ongoing discussion right now, especially with the way I think that Christian apologetics, the direction that is going. All right. I believe that something is happening right now. And I was joking to myself maybe about a month ago. I said, man, you know what? This was before the whole Wes Huff thing had popped off. I was like, man, I mean, I'm looking at certain guys' channels grow. I'm starting to see that more and more people are starting to be more engaged in these conversations online, especially talking about the Christian faith, talking about Christ, the historicity of it all. I was just like, we might be in a golden age of Christian apologetics on YouTube. This might be the golden era right now. I'm watching things happen with the guys from Highly Initiated, and I'm starting to see more and more conversations between Hebrew Israelite leaders and some popular YouTube guys. So I'm just like, yeah, it's some great stuff going on. Simon Phoenix says a lot of channels are questioning the Catholic doctrine. Yeah, it is. And I'm going to kind of briefly touch on that as well. Grace and peace, Brother Slim. All right. So just to kind of catch people up on what's happening. All right. I think by now, if you're watching my channel, and quite frankly, I have not done a lot of, I don't think I've done any content with Wes Huff and the whole kerfuffle with him and Billy Carson and all of that. I did do one video on my other channel. It was just like a 15-minute video or something like that, kind of like explaining what was going on. But I don't think that I've really covered too much of what was going on, because I think that there's just so many videos, there's so many people saying things about the whole situation. I was like, I kind of don't want to jump on that bandwagon. I kind of want to stay in my lane. So backstory, all right. And you guys probably already know the story, but for those who are not familiar, Billy Carson garnered millions of followers saying all types of just egregious stuff about Christianity. It's false. Jesus is a carbon copy of some ancient myth. And he's one of those guys that, it seems like that, Christianity has been hiding this from you, and you didn't know this about this, and your pastor didn't teach you that. So he's kind of one of those particular guys, right? So went on a couple of podcasts. Well, I'm the only guy that's going to like destroy Christianity and nobody has debated me and this, that, and the third, making all of these crazy accusations. So one of his friends decided well, Billy Carson and one of his friends, they decided that they were going to have a sit down, a conversation about Christianity. Now his friend is a new believer. Okay. But his friend said that, well, hey, his friend was already following Wes Huff. So his friend says, well, hey, I don't really know a lot about that stuff that you're talking about when it comes to like language and documents and, ancient manuscripts. But I do know a guy that I would like for you to sit down and talk to. His name is Wes Huff. And, this is kind of his lane. This is his area. So they sit down. So they scheduled something 24 hours in advance. So the friend hits up Wes Huff, says that, hey, we're going to have this discussion. Why don't you come by tomorrow on the podcast? We'll talk about it. After that, the next day happens. The rest is history. You know what I'm saying? Wes Huff turns around. He talks about, he corrects Billy on a lot of stuff about the manuscripts. He talks about how Billy mislabeled Christians and all types of stuff. So, he ended up getting, shut down. Now Billy Carson's career is kind of going down the toilet. And now, Wes Huff, his career is now starting to grow. So in the midst of all of that, Wes Huff, I think he went from when I first heard about him, he only had like 12,000 subscribers. And I just checked today, the man is like at 400,000 subscribers. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's been on the PMB podcast. I was watching that yesterday. And I mean, he's just been doing a phenomenal job to me personally by going out and correcting a lot of errors that have been thrown at Christianity. A lot of stuff that we've been hearing from a lot of these guys for years, because the stuff that Billy Carson was saying, it ain't new. Some of us, we've already dealt with some of those things, but I think that it was refreshing to see somebody who actually knew what they were talking about, who was able to sit down with a guy like a Billy Carson. You see what I'm saying? A guy who was able to sit down with a guy like Billy Carson and, just totally defend the faith and then bring out the correct, to bring out the correct information. And I think that we have been waiting for this for a long time. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. And then Simon Phoenix said he also admits he was wrong regarding Isaiah's scroll, which was something that was like, it was something very minute, it was something very minute. It wasn't like he said something that's totally contrary to history. And I watched him kind of give a response to the people who were saying that he was wrong on the Isaiah scroll, which was like really, it was petty. It wasn't much. It wasn't much. All right. Well, anyway, let's do this. Let's start our Jeopardy music time. Got a little bit of delay. There we go. All right. So I'm asking y'all in the live poll only on YouTube. Is Wes Huff a wolf and a liar? So far, 6% of you all say yes, marking the void. 58% of you say no. God is working through him. 9% of you say, I see good and bad things. And 27% of you say, I still don't know much about him. Still don't know much about him. Grace and peace, Richard, if I have not greeted you yet. All right. So let's get into this. Now, as I get ready to get started into this, I want to say that some of the responses that I've been getting or that I've been seeing from some people who are Roman Catholic, not too much from the Eastern Orthodox, but I'm pretty sure they're out there as well. Some of the responses that I'm seeing from them is kind of making me start to question whether or not, if we can genuinely call Roman Catholics brothers and sisters in the faith. And some of the stuff that I've been studying, I'm not saying this because, I got a personal internal beef with Catholics, but I'm just saying, like, I'm like, dang, this man is, and I'm not saying that we need to look at this guy as like some type of hero or some savior for, Christianity, because there's been plenty of faithful men and women out there throughout history, who have stood firm on the faith. There's people who've even died for the faith. So I'm not saying that Wes Huff is like this end all be all. He's like the savior of Christian apologetics. No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that if he's doing something that is beneficial to the body of Christ, then why would there be an attempt to try to tear the man down? That's kind of my question. Because if we're supposed to be on the same team, and this is supposed to be about Christ, I get it. Yeah, some people say some things, and they may be off here, they may be off there a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But as brothers and sisters in the faith, we're supposed to be brothers and sisters in the faith, then why don't we just take the time to, hey, listen, brother, respectfully, you was wrong on this, Or, and I know people can't they can't really get at him the way, because he's so popular now. People can't really get at him and like really, send him emails and expect him to respond. But to be able to say, hey, listen, I think that, he's kind of off on this, But then there's other things that kind of make me think that, okay, well, wait, let me pump my brakes. I don't think that I can label all Roman Catholics and put them all into the same boat, because there are some Roman Catholics, just like, I can't remember the guy, who was it, Jose? Who was it? Let me see if I can scroll back up. The guy who did, here it is, Capturing Christianity. So that guy, he kind of did a nice little response to Wes Huff. You know what I'm saying? So it's stuff like that to where I'm just like, okay, well, let's not be too hasty. And I know that by me saying that, this is kind of gonna, some people gonna be looking at me funny saying, oh man, this guy, he believes that, Roman Catholics could be brothers and sisters in the faith. I know. I think that the jury is still out on that. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, and I really want people to hear my heart on this. I struggle with that. I'm not gonna lie. Dealing with some of these people that come by and say what they say in my chat, that's what makes me struggle. That's what makes me struggle, because I think that some people, they just like beef. They like the fighting. They want to find a way to tear somebody else down. And I don't think that they really have the spirit of Christ, the Christ that, the real Christ of the Bible. Like some of these people, they wear this title and they have different agendas. And this is the problem that I've even had with a lot of Protestants, of people who have this appearance of holiness and godliness. Or I'm sorry, they had the title of appearance and godliness. But when you look at their hearts and you listen to the stuff that they say, it's just like, I don't think that you've totally been regenerated. You're just wearing the title Christian for whatever reason, I don't know. There's one Catholic that I can say, one Catholic that I know personally, that I can say that, you know what? Out of all of this, with me hopping on here and discussing things, about Roman Catholicism, that I do genuinely consider a brother, and I don't have any problems with, and that is Abu Kamar. All right, the boss Abu. All right. I've had conversations with Abu, and actually when me and Abu, when we had our conversation on here, this was months ago, and we just kind of had a conversation about like our differences in Roman Catholicism, and I brought out some things. I say, hey, listen, me as a Protestant, it's things like this that kind of raised my antennas up, and he was really nice and really respectful. But other than that, to be honest, I don't know of any other Roman Catholics that I've met here on YouTube or that I know personally that I can say that I can truly genuinely consider them a brother or a sister in the faith. There's probably only one person that I really don't know him too much on the Eastern Orthodox side, and I've only interacted with him, a couple of times, and I've been, I've been watching him a little bit. But Nick Norelli, shout out to Nick Norelli. I actually like Nick Norelli. Now of course we got our differences, but if that's one person that I can say out of on the Eastern Orthodox side that I can say, you know what, I actually like this guy. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that he is a guy who has malicious intent. That's one guy that I think that I really could consider, well, that I do consider a brother in the faith, because he hasn't shown me otherwise. So shout out to Nick and Red. So like I said, there's only like one Catholic, that's Abu and Nick on the Eastern Orthodox side, that I can say, yeah, I have no problem saying that those are my brothers in Christ. You know what I'm saying? Because you can just tell, like you can really tell by a person's spirit and the way that they portray themselves. And it's just, I don't know, you can really feel it. But the rest of some of these guys, I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry. I just some of these people, I really just don't trust them. I know that they say that they're Christian and this, that, and the third, but then I'll see comments and then I'll see emails that some of these dudes will send me nasty stuff. And I'm just like, okay, that's fine. But anyway, that's enough of my babble. That's enough of my babble. He said, yeah, you preaching. That's what I'm talking about. Go ahead and give a little bit of this. All right, cool. All right, so since we got all of that out of the way, let me see. Where do I want to start first? I think I want to start here. I think I want to start with this particular video right here. And I watched this yesterday. This was on the PBD podcast. And he had Wes Huff on yesterday, and I was watching this while I was at work. And I came in on the middle, and I watched the rest of it just a minute ago, because I had to take a drive down to downtown Atlanta, and I was driving back, and I was listening to the first half of it, which was a pretty great interview. But the part that I came in on was a little bit before this. But I think that Wes, he had some pretty interesting things to say. All right. At this particular part. But anyway, fair use. Now, to kind of catch you guys up to where we are right now in this part of the video, I think that he was talking about, I think he was talking about how Christianity has been misrepresented throughout the years. So he was like, okay, yeah, Christians have been misrepresented, but Christians have always known to stand on truth, stand on business for the sake of Christ and his kingdom. All right. So I think that this is kind of where we at. All right, here we go. Fair use.
Oh, I think the time period that we live in is much more emblematic of the early church in those first few centuries of its existence, in that you have a culture that was very much accepting of, say, promiscuous sexual ethics and idolatry, and was open to things, and misrepresented and misunderstood Christianity fundamentally. In that, there was a common practice within ancient Rome called exposure, where if you had a baby and you didn't want it, you would put it outside the city gates. You would put it in the garbage dumps. And Christians were notorious for going and saving these babies. And so the Christian movement actually grew in part because they were against this form of abortion in the ancient world. And so they would collect these babies and they would raise them. And a lot of these babies were girls, which actually meant that the early Christian movements became astatistically predominantly women, because a lot of these women, these little girls, were exposed in this. Now, the society around them heard about these strange Christians who were talking about, with the Lord's Supper, drinking blood and eating flesh. And then they knew that they were going out and they were taking these babies from the garbage dumps. And so they started to develop rumors that Christians were cannibals. And yet, despite what is a pretty heinous accusation, complete misunderstanding of what's going on, Christianity still grew. And some of the earliest critics of Christianity referred to Christianity as the religion of slaves and women. because it gave agency to these groups that were marginalized within society.
It's so funny. The mob's been around always, and it confuses and gaslights people all the time.
Definitely. In Christianity, Christians were accused of being atheists, A being the negative participle, and then theos meaning God, because they denied that the gods existed, and antisocial, because they wouldn't participate in the goings-on within society that were inherently religious. And so it's in this context that Christianity, grassroots, from the bottom up, eventually goes from 11 scared disciples hiding in an upper room when Jesus is crucified to fundamentally taking over the Roman world within, half a century, half a millennium. And it's because of the faithful witness of the Christians who were being persecuted and yet were still proclaiming Jesus as Lord, and were fundamentally speaking into the society that they lived in with a message that overturned the norms, because it gave people purpose. And ultimately it gave.
That's what I want. That's one of the things I want to bring out. All right. Because again, as Christians, what is our purpose and our goal? You see what I'm saying? That's what we have to ask ourselves whenever we call ourselves Christian. What does our walk look like? Who's actually out here doing work for the kingdom? Who's doing something that is going to glorify God? Or are we just trying to become tribal and say, this is my group, and anybody outside of this group is wrong? Anybody outside of this group, they're an enemy to me. Or are we saying that even if I think that people who are outside of this group are an enemy to me and an enemy to Christ, what am I doing to give them the truth of the gospel? What truth am I giving them? Because, well, there's only one truth. You know what I'm saying? There's only one truth. What am I doing to advance the kingdom of God? You see what I'm saying? So these are some of the things that we have to start asking ourselves. And what Wes Huff is basically saying, and you guys have heard it for yourselves, although the early Christians were being persecuted, people were, slandering them, talking bad about them, they kept the main thing, which was the gospel. Giving people the gospel and saying that although these people are persecuting us and slandering us, we're still going to show them the love of Christ. And eventually what ended up happening? Hearts and minds would change, especially in Rome. All right. Let's see how much more we can play of this. Fair use.
Give them truth. That the idea of God stepping out of eternity changes the paradigm. I mentioned Glenn Scrivener. He has this really good illustration where he talks about all worldviews are some version of survival of the fittest. I'm paraphrasing him here, but what he says is all worldviews are some version of survival of the fittest, in that you need to do right, you need to think right, or you need to feel right. And Christianity is different in that the fittest steps down and sacrifices himself for the survival of the weakest. And that message, we're just over the Christmas season, right? The Christmas message of God becoming a baby and becoming vulnerable is both an example to us of humility and how we should live, but ultimately in worlds where might and power in a very abusive way are often seen as the way to go, Christianity subverts that, in that Jesus could have taken cues from, all the rulers of his day, of Caesar and of Herod, and later on during his earthly ministry of Pilate, right? He doesn't do that. He comes down, he humbles himself, he lives a life of a servant, and he gets murdered. And that changes the narrative. And then he rises from the dead and conquers sin and death. And so because of that, those 11 scared disciples are now willing to go out into the world and suffer persecution and beating and death for the sake of this message that ultimately spreads out through all the ancient world and gets us to where we are today, where we're talking about things like freedom.
Yeah.
And that's because of the Christian Revolution.
Now, if I'm Tom, Rob, can you Google this? Did they have OnlyFans back in the days? You almost Googled it, Rob, just so you know. You almost
what are you
did.
talking about?
Is there
Yeah, he's about to go into something else because he's going to talk about the morality of what's happening nowadays, and so that's kind of where they're going to go with that particular for that particular part of the conversation. So I just kind of wanted to stop it right there, and I played that video because when you have a person like that, like Wes Huff, who has taken his knowledge and his scholarship, and he hasn't done all of this so he could become famous or anything like that. It just so happened that the Lord is using him in this way. All right. But all of the knowledge that he's gained over the years, all of the mission work that he's done. Okay. Now this man was basically born as a missionary. He was born in Pakistan and he lived over in the Middle East for quite some time. And his parents, they ended up getting in trouble, I think, with the Iranian government for proselytizing. They gave a Muslim guy a Bible. And I think they ended up getting in trouble with the Iranian government for that. So, so he was born and raised into this, he ended up catching some type of disease or something, and he was like paralyzed for a little bit. And he ended up getting over that. And now he's walking, praise be to God for that. And I think the doctors called it a miracle, saying that they don't know how this guy's walking. So, grace and peace, mere Asian Christian, and grace and peace, brother Raven would die. Another support up in the house. Thank you for your continued patronage. So yeah, Wes Huff, he's been out there for a minute. He's done some stuff that some of us haven't even thought about doing. Been in other countries, spreading the word of God. And listen, like I always say, I always have a soft spot in my heart for people who are missionaries that actually go out to other countries, putting their lives on the line, going into places where Christianity is, in some places, heavily restricted, dang near forbidden. And these people say, for the advancement of the gospel and for the advancement of God's kingdom, I'm going to take the Bible, I'm going to take the word, and I'm going to take it into these unreached places to give these people the gospel. Because this is the only thing that is going to save these people from an eternal damnation, separate from God. And he's taking all of his experience, all of his knowledge, and he doesn't bow down and become a coward when the cameras are on. Big platforms. I'll probably say over the past, ever since I've become a Christian, over the past, how long has it been now? I want to say maybe I started kind of getting into this walk maybe around 2010, 2009. So what has it been, about maybe going on 15 years now? I've been in this walk, I've been in this faith. And it's been so disheartening watching people who profess to be Christians, people who say, I've been a Christian 20, 30 years, gospel teachers, gospel singers, pastors. They put the camera on them, ask them some questions. And some of these questions are kind of softballish. To us, he'll be softballish. And time again, they fold. Well, what does the Bible say about homosexuality? Kirk Franklin. Well, you got people, and then you got other people, and then you got Jesus, and then you got me, but I'm not a judge. God can judge. I love people, But some people don't love people. And it's just like, can you just answer the question? People compromising left and right on the gospel. And here we go. We got a man, no matter what you say about him, no matter about the whole Isaiah scroll. Oh, he misrepresented the Isaiah. He said one little thing out of context. Isaiah scroll. He's wrong. He said something about the canon. Yeah, the canon. Now Roman Catholics want to crash out on the man because he doesn't have the same view that they have on the canon. But guess what? The Eastern Orthodox don't have the same view of the canon that you have either. But you're not saying nothing to them. But because he's a Protestant. Let me see what Azariah got to say. All right. He said, you do the same thing, Alton. You put on the spot for Obadiah 1 and 18 and you fold. Now this is it's a Hebrew Israelite, you know. Everybody's welcome here. But let me go into the Hebrew Israelites just for a teeny tiny second. I told Hebrew Israelites as I was dealing with them on my channel not too long ago. I said, listen, and this is the same warning I'm going to get of Roman Catholics too. All right. I told Hebrew Israelites, I said, listen, y'all better learn how to start making the main thing the main thing. Because you want to attack Christians. And you think that by attacking Christians, because this little movement is hot right now. This little movement is hot. You think that this is going to be the end all be all. It's too many separations with y'all. Now, remember, we're going to have Captain Tazariak here in a couple of days. And he's going to be talking about proof, biblical proof of how Joseph is Jesus' biological father. And I told people back then, I said that there's some Hebrew Israelites that believe that. Some of y'all don't believe that. Some of y'all think that that's silly. But you better nail down what you actually believe. Because this is going to come to a head. And this is what's going to split. And this is what's going to divide y'all. Now Hebrew Israelites, they're so split and divided right now. And people are just like, people aren't even really dealing with Hebrew Israelites anymore. When I first started dealing with Hebrew Israelites, they were black Hebrew Israelites. Then they became Hebrew Israelites. Now a lot of them are just like, don't call me Hebrew Israelite, just call me an Israelite. And then some of them even shying away from the whole Israelite, from the whole Israelite title. Now they're saying that, oh, well, I'm just a follower of Yah, a follower of Messiah. But that's why I'm asked. That's why I'm telling a lot of my Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox friends, listen, right now, this thing that's happening with Wes Huff, you might want to be careful about how you go about this. You need to be careful about what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, and what is your end goal. Because if you're just looking at him as a Protestant and saying that, Calvin, Luther, Zwingli, Apostolic Succession, hands, authority, tradition, he ain't got none of that. He's just a dumb Protestant. It's not going to end well for you. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. But let's bring this up. Trent Horn. Let me bring this video up first. I'm going to bring this video up first. Now, listen. I respect Trent Horn and his work. I really do. I think with this Wes Huff thing, I think that he's being pretty fair. He's laying out some of his concerns in a fair manner, and he's just not getting on here, turning on the camera, and just crashing out like I'm seeing some of these other guys. He's actually trying to be fair, and he's trying to be honest, and he has a message for y'all. For y'all Roman Catholics, he got a message for you guys. And I believe that there's some Roman Catholics who got a problem with what Trent Horn has to say in this video. Now, I didn't go through the whole thing. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I think that this part right here is the most pertinent, because I think at the end, he kind of says some stuff that I think that Roman Catholics really have to pay attention to. All right. Let's watch this. And anyway, fair use. Let's just watch it.
Now by noting two things. First, Huff's approach to Rogan was very helpful. It served as an excellent model for a Christian apologist to present the Christian faith to someone who's skeptical. Huff displayed a gracious attitude towards Rogan. He wasn't smug or aggressive, but earnest and just excited about the historical evidence for Jesus. He was also well-rounded in his knowledge and could quote from a myriad of facts related to ancient history and the evidence for Christianity.
Stop it right there. I want to pull something up, and I want to see if this person agrees, or I'm sorry, disagrees with what Trent Horn just said. Where is it? I'm going through the chat. Let me see. This guy right here, Just Run. Wes Huff is just as bad as Billy Carson.
Bruh.
According to Trent Horn, that Trent Horn said that he wasn't. Let's bring this back up. Pull it up. We're going to pull this up because he said that this guy's just as bad as Billy Carson. So let's pull this back up because I want to see, do you disagree with what Trent Horn just said? Just Run. Do you agree? Or do you disagree? Now, I think Just Run is a Roman Catholic. Type of one if you're a Roman Catholic. Just Run. All right, fair use.
Faith to someone who's skeptical. Huff displayed a gracious attitude towards Rogan. He wasn't smug or aggressive, but earnest and just excited about the historical evidence for Jesus. He was also well-rounded in his knowledge and could quote from a myriad of facts related to ancient history and the evidence for Christianity. Rogan seemed to really enjoy discussing those various details. Once again, this is an excellent model for how to discuss the resurrection with non-Christians. And number two, Protestants like Huff are overrepresented when it comes to providing sophisticated defenses of Christ's resurrection. Granted, Protestants who don't debate Catholics, but rather spend most of their time on proclaiming the kerygma, have more opportunities to grow in that subject. You can see this with William Lane Craig's emphasis throughout his entire career on proving God's existence and Christ's resurrection, apart from engaging in many other theological issues. In contrast, Catholic and Orthodox Christians spend a lot of time addressing Protestant criticisms of the apostolic churches, as well as their own opposing arguments. You see this all over Catholic and Orthodox social media, where engagement of atheists and defenses of things like biblical reliability or the resurrection seem far less common than interdenominational disputes, or
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like that Trent Horn is saying that y'all ain't even dealing with some of the stuff that Wes Huff is dealing with. Y'all dealing with some apostolic fathers, church fathers, and all of that stuff. But y'all not dealing with languages and texts and all of that stuff the same way that a lot of Protestants are doing. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's not me saying it. I'm not saying this. This is Trent Horn saying this. All right.
intramural disputes among Catholics on things like church politics that end up sucking up a lot of people's time and energy. But this focus can lead apostolic Christians to gloss over their duty to defend the original proclamation of the apostles. Christ is risen. Or if they do defend it, they don't address the most sophisticated objections against the resurrection from thoughtful atheists and other non-Christian critics. I'm not a fan of Catholics also sitting...
Whoa, let me back that up. Let me back that up just a little bit. I want to make sure I heard that right. All right, hold on 1 second. We gonna replay that. Hold on. Yeah. Shout out to my new mods. Well deserved. We got Raven Radai, and we also have Simon Phoenix, who are now the new mods. So that's what I'm talking about. Now play with it if you want to. They watching. Oh, you better believe they watching. All right, here we go. Fair use. Let's get back to it.
Ended up sucking up a lot of people's time and energy. But this focus can lead apostolic Christians to gloss over their duty to defend the original proclamation of the apostles. Christ is risen.
Stop. He said their original duty. What's their original duty? Same thing that the apostles was doing. See what I'm saying? Now, when a person such as myself, who has talked about this stuff for the past few months with Roman Catholics, this is what the apostles have passed down. And people want to turn around and mock, saying that, oh, you know, you don't know church history, this, that, and the third. I'm like, I'm trying to stay faithful and loyal to what we have received from the apostles. I got a good friend of mine who was watching from Facebook, Sister Katrina Presley. And I know she got some smoke before I read this, but I'm going to read it anyhow. Grace and peace says, how you doing? She says, Wes is an op. Roman Catholics are ruthless and was part of the colonizers and conjured magic to corrupt everything religious. But they're going to get theirs. Big Mama coming for her throne. The Knights Templar about to handle them expeditiously. I knew she was coming in with the smoke. Coming in with the smoke. Azara, she says, Sister teaching good. Man, come on, man. Oh. Sister Katrina, are you still an Israelite? Are you still an Israelite? Now, my sister Katrina, she used to, when I first met her, like she was really, really, into the Lord, into the church. And I don't know, maybe I do need to have a conversation with her offline to see what changed over the years. All right. So, before anybody think that she's always been like this, she had a different perspective on the Christian perspective. You know what I'm saying? So, but I do have to talk to her about that later. I got to see what's going on. All right, now let's get back to Trent Horn. Let's get back to Trent Horn. Because he said that it seems like that
Christians to gloss over their...
Some of y'all are glossing over y'all duty to do exactly what the apostles was doing. And he's saying that a lot of these arguments is taking up a lot of time that you guys could be using to spread the gospel more effectively, in a nutshell. But I'm going to let him explain it. Let me stop.
Sucking up a lot of people's time and energy. But this focus can lead apostolic Christians to gloss over their duty to defend the original proclamation of the apostles. Christ is risen. Or if they do defend it, they don't address the most sophisticated objections against the resurrection from thoughtful atheists and other non-Christian critics. I'm not a fan of Catholics also sitting back while Protestants do the heavy lifting in proving the foundational truths of Christianity before the Catholics swoop in with the evidence for the church. Now,
Listen, man, hold on. I got to give Trent Horn this. Got to give him a little bit of this too. Trent Horn was cooking. Trent Horn is cooking. Jose, this is for you, Jose. That's Jose's sound effect. He liked that sound effect. Boom. Grace and peace, Sister Sheila. Grace and peace. Another supporter up in the chat. Marlon Wilson says Catholics are salty. Yeah, they are very salty. Extra salt. The kind of salt that turn your lips white. Trent Horn said that he is not pleased with watching Protestants do all that heavy lifting, and then the Catholics come in, they swoop right in and try to defend the faith with the Apostolic Fathers. This is some of the stuff that I've been trying to talk about on my channel. I'm trying to address. I've said this over and over again, just about every single live stream, to where I've said, listen, you got Protestants out here that are trying to be faithful to the word of God. And I know we got our differences, but you want to try to come and you want to try to tear people down because they're not a part of your particular church. There's men and women out here that's faithful. People out here, there's men and women out here dying for the faith. And the only argument that you got is, well, you guys are up under a church that was started by Martin Luther, and you guys don't know church history and all of this stuff. But y'all won't hear from me because I'm just dumb, stupid Protestant Alton. But that's why I wanted to play this video, because I wanted to see what y'all were going to think about what Trent Horn had to say. Is Trent Horn correct? Because I know that this right here is going to start making a lot of y'all veer away from Trent Horn because y'all don't like what he's saying. This right here is about to be a dividing line. Now listen, I'm about to prophesy right now. All right, I'm going to prophesy. This video right here is about to be a dividing line between the more mature Catholics and a lot of the Catholics who are just on the internet wanting to squabble and fight with people in the comment section. Some of y'all probably haven't even been catechized. You just calling yourself Roman Catholic. Not even a part of any church. And I think that the ones who are really a part of the church and the institution of the Roman Catholic Church, they gonna start dividing y'all. They're gonna start separating y'all, just like I warned the Black Hebrew Israelites. The divide is coming. It's coming. And all of y'all who gonna be on that crash out stuff, crashing out over Wes Huff, just like I said in my post, don't believe me, just watch. It is not gonna end well. Man, let me stop talking. I want to continue to play this. All right, fair use.
There's nothing wrong with sharing evidence for the church Christ established, but it'd be much more effective if Catholics could present a full, complete defense of the faith, all of whose parts are equally rigorous, be it about Christ's church or Christ himself. And one way to do that is to read good defenses of Christ's resurrection, which, as I noted, almost all of which are written by Protestants. For an introduction to resurrection apologetics, I recommend Gary Habermas and Mike Lacona's book, The Case for the Resurrection, and Justin Bass's book, The Bedrock of Christianity, The Unalterable Facts of Jesus' Death and Resurrection. For an intermediate approach, I recommend The Argument from Miracles, A Cumulative Case for the Resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth, which is available online, and I'll link below. It's written by Tim and Lydia McGrew. Lydia McGrew has also done great work with the Maximal Facts approach that offers some helpful critiques of the Minimal Facts approach I'd also recommend looking into as well. Finally, the best advanced defense.
All right, I think that's the end of that. I think that's the end of that. Let me see. Grace Peace Jossie, he says, as a white Hebrew Israelite, you don't know what I had to, what does it say? He says, you don't know what I had to do to be cruel. No, Black Hebrew Israelite labels wanted to sign me. Dang, white skin. No worries. Started with the WHI. I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't think I understand. He must be talking to somebody else. He says, you should react to Francis venerating the pagan idol Pachamama. Listen, I was trying to look for that earlier. Now, is that something that happened recently? Or was that something that took place like some years ago? Because I saw people was like reacting to it maybe like 4 years ago, and then somebody was reacting to it like a year ago. And I know that this is starting to become, this is starting to be brought up again. But anyway, we are going to, I'm gonna bring this up because I know what this person is talking about. Mel Gibson talking about the Pachamama, and he was on Joe Rogan. talking about this. And I'm going to start it right here. All right? I'm going to start it right here. Let's see what Mel Gibson got to say. All right, fair use.
There's a guy called Bishop Vigano who says it's a counterfeit parallel church. And it's...
Now. All right, now here's the thing. Mel Gibson is a Roman Catholic. All right, he's Catholic. He's Catholic. Okay. Fair use. Let's get back to it.
It's running an entirely different religion. I actually don't adhere to a post-conciliar church. I mean, we got a pope that brought a South American idol into the church to worship.
Really?
He did, the Pachamama. That's called apostasy.
Right.
That's a falling away from it. And the very nature of apostasy means that you have to be part of it to fall away from it. Mm-hmm. So it's an inside job.
I'm not sure if Gibson subscribes to full-blown sedevacantism, a variant called sede privationism, or it's just a kind of Catholic fundamentalism that uses hyperbolic language. But regardless, if you want to share the Catholic faith to a largely non-religious audience, you probably shouldn't lead with stuff like this. I get that you should not ignore the church's warts. I totally agree with that. But dwelling on intramural Catholic disputes isn't really that helpful when we want to focus on the main issues at hand. And if you'd like to hear a rebuttal of Mel Gibson's attacks on the church, check out Joe Heschmeyer's recent episode on shameless popery that posted yesterday. I'll link to it in the...
Now, I think I think it is interesting that he's just like, okay, I don't think that what Mel Gibson is saying about the Pachamama and all of that stuff is helpful, that we need to focus on the main thing. Again, this is something that as a Protestant, I've been talking about for maybe about a year now, or maybe a few months when dealing with Roman Catholics. Let's focus on the gospel of Jesus Christ. I've seen other people say the same thing. Hey, let's start focusing on Christ and him crucified and the work that he's done on the cross. Let's talk about the gospel. But now all of a sudden, when a lot of these things are coming about, things been coming out about the Pope. Now when you got somebody who is considered himself to be a part of the Roman Catholic Church. Now he's just like, well, I don't think it's helpful that, you as a professor Roman Catholic talking about this stuff and talking about the Pope. I don't think it's helpful. Let's stick to the main thing. But when us Protestants, we're just like, okay, well, let's stick to the main thing. Luther, Calvin, Zwingli, Apostolic Succession. It's like, it's like when we want to stick to the main thing, you guys want to talk about other stuff. But then we got people, a part of your own camp, talking about other stuff. Now y'all want to stick to the main thing. So now I have to ask the question, what is the main thing in Roman Catholicism? What is it? Y'all can let me know in the chat, in the comments. What is the main thing? Because I'm having a hard time believing that it is actually the gospel of Jesus Christ. I really do. I really, really think that there's something else going on with the Roman Catholic Church instead of the gospel of Jesus Christ. All right, let's get back to it. I want to go into this. Now I did skip ahead a little bit because I wanted to get into how, let me see. At this particular part, he's talking about, so he's comparing what Wes Huff said on the Joe Rogan Experience and what Mel Gibson said on the Joe Rogan Experience about the resurrection. Why do they believe in a resurrection? And he kind of got two different answers. So Trent Horn is going to kind of talk about both of those. And I want y'all to listen good. Listen good. All right. Fair use.
For review.
So what is your personal belief when it comes to the resurrection? What do you think happened? Do you have a belief, or do you just try to interpret the text and try to see what is the message?
Well, I think so. as a historian, I do think it is a historical question. You have a guy who objectively lived, he objectively died, and then individuals close to his inner circle claim that they see him not dead.
Right.
When we do history, it's an inference to the best explanation. And so there are probabilities of things that have happened in history where we can say, okay, there's a higher probability of event A happening and a lower probability of event B happening. So the example I often give is like Jonah being swallowed by the fish. Like, that's low probabilistically. Not that it didn't happen, but that, like, as a historian, we got to, like, say, well, there's no independent cross-reference sources. You don't have multiple attestation for this particular event. The interesting thing about Jesus is that we have more evidence from different writings in the ancient world than we probably should have for someone of his stature.
And here's Rogan asking a similar question to Mel Gibson.
Who gets back up 3 days later after he gets murdered in public? Who gets back up under his own power? Buddha didn't do that shit.
Right.
You know, so.
You believe that was a real event?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
What brought you to that belief? Is it something that you've always had, or is it something you studied it and you've come to this conclusion because of the historical accounts? And
Yes. I think as a child, you know, one accepts things on faith because, you know, you're raised by people who are nice to you and they believe it. And my dad was a pretty smart guy. He was like Mensa smart, you know, like real smart. Like back in 1968, he won Jeopardy, right? And then
Really?
And then they brought all the Jeopardy winners back, and he played all the winners, and he beat all of them too. So he had a mind like a steel trap, and his memory was practically photographic. My memory is pornographic, but it's like his was like, I don't have that kind of mind.
right.
But I'm more like, he did math, and, you know, I can't add. But so as a child, you learn these things and you accept them on faith. And I still have that faith, but as I got older, I came to it through intellect and through reading and putting things together in accounts, and then occurrences like in my own life.
Rogan and Gibson then talk about the Shroud of Turin for several minutes as evidence for Jesus' existence, crucifixion, and possibly his resurrection before saying this.
I buy it, but that's not the only reason I buy it. I mean, I think, you know, there's other logical reasons why I believe. So,
Like, what are those?
oh, okay. Stuff that happens in your own life. The results you get.
Now remember, he asked him a question about the evidence of Jesus's resurrection and why does he believe it. Now, Wes Huff was straight to the point. Said what he said, and I think that he made a great point of saying why he believed what he believes about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now, Mel Gibson, and here's the thing, Mel Gibson is not on the same level as Wes Huff. I know that. So I'm not going to sit back and say, well, see, this is Roman Catholicism. But, you know, of course, if there's a Roman Catholic doing the same review, they probably won't give us that same grace. They'll probably use somebody that is like, you know, a bad Protestant or a bad example of a person who was a Protestant and say, well, see, this is what Protestantism is. But, you know, anyway, I digress. Let's continue.
From actually appealing to a power greater than yourself, you know? And, I mean, I don't think it's any secret. I am flawed in the fact that I am, by nature, born an alcoholic, right? I did drugs, I did alcohol, so... and there was nothing that could stop me from doing that. Nothing. So I was really kind of you're on a downhill run. So I regard the fact that I was able to appeal to something greater than myself to help me and actually stop me doing that. I think that's a miracle. It is. For me, it is. And for many. We are so flawed. And I'm more flawed than anyone, you know. But it's something that I think, and it's pretty safe to say I'm in the third act now. You're in act 2, right? Gesundheit. But I'm in the third act, man. So you have to think about the other side. You have to think about what comes next. Is there a next? Yes, there is. I believe there is. And I think it's... depends on how you live now, and the beauty of believing is that even for your transgressions you can be forgiven, and you can be redeemed, but it's all up here,
Right.
you know.
Is the true acceptance and understanding of what you've done and what you should do.
Sure, you have to
And
look
how-
at yourself honestly.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely honestly. You have to be able to accuse yourself. And understand that it's a great deal of mercy involved in the fact that I believe that God sent his son down to tell us, okay, I'm going to ransom you people from your fallen nature. And
Jamie, I got your messages. But I'm kind of focused on this live stream right now. I'll get back to you whenever I can.
And I'll give you a roadmap on how to do it. And people do it. There's even people that do it that have never even heard of it. You know, some guy in the jungle someplace, I'm sure.
Right.
You know, because the Creator is above the law. And it's an interesting fact to note that the first canonized saint, you know who it was?
No.
The first ever confirmed canonization as a saint was Dismas.
All right. Listen good. Listen good. He's going to talk about the first canonized saint. Now, Catholics, I want y'all to let me know. Is this confirmed? All right, here we go. Fair use.
No.
The first ever confirmed canonization as a saint was Dismas. You know who Dismas was?
No.
He was the thief on the cross next to Jesus.
Oh.
And he says to him, "You're going to be okay. This day, you'll be with me."
Okay, so Roman Catholics, is the thief on the cross the first canonized saint? I got another question too. Because there's some Roman Catholics running around here saying that the reason why the thief on the cross ended up in heaven is because of Mary's prayers. Is that true? Is that true? All right, now y'all hearing it for yourself. All right, you're hearing it for yourself.
Unbaptized, criminal, all that stuff. So
Wow.
the lawmaker is above the law. So there's a lot of mercy.
In watching their different styles, you can see that I can't make a strict one-to-one comparison between Wesley Huff and Mel Gibson. Huff is giving a more comprehensive apologetic defense with lots of answers and citations, which isn't surprising because Huff does apologetics full-time. However, Mel Gibson gave more gripping and engaging answers, which isn't surprising because he tells gripping and engaging stories full-time. These are just different approaches, and we need both of them when it comes to sharing the gospel. This coherent...
Okay, now you heard what he just said, right? I'm going to back this up. I want y'all to hear this. Again, listen to what Trent's response. All right? Remember what Wes Huff said about the resurrection of Christ, and try to remember everything that Mel Gibson just said about the resurrection. Now remember, Trent is kind of like the leading guy in Roman Catholic apologetics. All right, let's get back to it. Okay, oh, look at him. He said he loved Trent Horn. Grace and peace, Pastor J. All right, here we go. Fair use.
In watching their different styles, you can see that I can't make a strict one-to-one comparison between Wesley Huff and Mel Gibson. Huff is giving a more comprehensive apologetic defense with lots of answers and citations, which isn't surprising because Huff does apologetics full-time. However, Mel Gibson gave more gripping and engaging answers, which isn't surprising because he tells gripping and engaging stories full-time. These are just different approaches, and we need both of them when it comes to sharing the gospel.
You are fake news.
He said we need both of them. I don't know, man. Here's my thing. Okay. I understand. Okay. Trent Horn is Roman Catholic. Mel Gibson is his Roman Catholic brother. So he can't throw his Roman Catholic brother up under the bus. I get it. But we gotta start standing on truth. What about what Mel Gibson said about his evidence for the resurrection? What about that, number one, is biblical? And it just seems like that he just did a whole bunch of explaining and he really didn't answer the question. And again, I understand that he's probably not in the church like that. I get it. I really get it. Okay? But at the same time, whenever we have a person who is a Protestant that gets on and says some goofy stuff on one of these large platforms, there's a heck of a lot of response videos coming from Protestants, clearing the stuff up and saying, hey, I understand that such and such went on such and such podcast and they said this, but they were totally wrong. And we kind of urge each other to do better, not to try to gloss over and just say, well, you know, what Wes Huff had one way and Mel Gibson had another way. It's just like, no, somebody's either right or wrong, because it seemed like that they were saying two opposing things. You know, Trent Horn is just, well, you know, Mel Gibson is he's a really good person at telling stories. It's just like, no, that means nothing. Can we just start telling the truth? Can we start just telling the truth? Because we're so quick to correct the other side, but we don't want to correct those on our side. Learn how to be fair and balanced. If you're going to correct people on the other side, then learn how to correct people on your side as well. You know?
This coheres with what St. Paul says about the body of Christ in 1 Corinthians 12. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. God arranged the organs in the body, each one of them as he chose. If all were a single organ, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, yet one body. The eye cannot say to the hand,
Well, that sounded like sola scriptura to me. Uh-oh. That sounds like sola scriptura. Is that sola scriptura that he reading? I don't know. I don't know.
I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. On the contrary, the parts of the body which seem to be weaker are indispensable, and those parts of the body which we think less honorable, we invest with the greater honor, and our unpresentable parts are treated with greater modesty. Some people need to hear someone like Wesley Huff give a rigorous historical argument for the resurrection, and other people just need to hear Mel Gibson say, Buddha didn't do that, which would be a good contender for an acceptable rhetorical use of profanity that I mentioned in my previous episode on swearing. And someone like Mel Gibson might resonate more with a person who feels like a broken, failed mess that God can't love, which of course isn't true. Or they might think they're the kind of person that's too rough around the edges for God to love, because Mel Gibson is kind of rough around the edges. But he's a wonderful witness and testament to the love and mercy of God. Also, in order to appreciate both of these approaches to sharing the faith, we need to distinguish between two concepts that often get conflated: evangelism and apologetics. Evangelism is just sharing the good news of salvation.
Listen good. All right? Because he's saying that between both of them, one person was evangelizing and one person was doing apologetics. Okay.
In Jesus Christ. It involves telling people about how Jesus' life, death, and resurrection have made it possible for them to be saved from their sins. Apologetics, however, is a subset of theology that provides a rational defense of the Christian faith. In many cases, these two things go hand in hand. You might tell someone the good news about Jesus Christ or evangelize him. But if that person thinks this good news is too good to be true, then you might consider it necessary to give good reasons for the person to think this good news is indeed true. But evangelism and apologetics don't always go together. You might tell someone, hey, your life is a mess, but no matter what you think about yourself, God loves you. So go into that church and ask Jesus to change your heart. In response, the person might say, you're right, I will. That's a case of evangelism and no apologetics were needed. But in other cases, a person who wants the gospel to be true might just have doubts and ask you to help their unbelief. So you might share apologetics with that person to clear away objections and errors that are keeping them from fully embracing the faith. We need both of these things, but I've noticed two errors that come up in this matter. More liberal Christians will say that we only need evangelism, and the only defense we need to offer for the faith is our own holiness. If people just saw how holy we were, then they would believe. And that might be true for some people, but if you only do good works like feed the poor and never tell them anything about Jesus Christ, then you aren't doing evangelism. Besides, there are many non-Catholic, non-Christian, and even atheistic people who also do works of charity. So we need to share.
Yeah, right now Trent is he's doing a bunch of splaining right now. And this is, to be honest, this is the thing that kind of bothers me, especially with Roman Catholics and primarily with Trent Horn, because he's trying to make the case that Wes Huff, he just kind of gave like more of an apologetic answer. He didn't really do any evangelism. Now, if Wes Huff would have given a gospel message, what do you think Trent Horn's response would have been? It would have been, oh, well, he went on there preaching. Because that's what they say. Whenever we give the gospel, you just preaching. You just went in preacher mode. All of this preaching. But Wes Huff was asked a specific question. He was asking, well, why do you believe in the resurrection of Christ? Basically, what would be the evidence for that? What kind of leads you to believe in the resurrection of Christ? And he broke it down. Okay, well, hey, listen, if we're going to talk about the resurrection and it being valid, well, then let's see what the people who are around Jesus had to say at that moment. Let's see what they had to say. And let's see what other people who were there at that moment when they witnessed it, let's see what they had to say. And then now let's apply that to my life. Let's apply all of the stuff that the Lord has done in my life, which Wes Huff did during that 3-hour live stream that he did with Joe Rogan. He talked about the miracle of him being paralyzed and then him, being able to walk again. Him reading other religions and seeing what they thought about God and how they thought that, God does not interact with man and that we're just kind of just down here just figuring it out for ourselves. But then when you look at Jesus, you look at the God that comes down. He comes down and takes on human flesh. And he interacts with his creation. And then not only that, he dies for his creation so that those who have accepted him could have an eternal seat at the table in his eternal kingdom. And he's just like, he's read these other books and none of them said that. And that's why I'm just like, are we being fair? Now, the previous video that I just played with Trent Horn, he was saying that Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox need to start doing more of that. So the same thing that he's criticizing Wes Huff for not doing in this video is the same thing that he's criticized those, well, not even really, you can't even compare what the Eastern Orthodox and the Roman Catholic Church is doing according, trying to compare that to what he's criticizing Wes Huff for, because Trent Horn is saying that a lot of people from the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic Church, they're not even engaging in a lot of these talks. They're not even talking about the resurrection. They're not even talking about the evidence of the resurrection of Christ. They'll mention it here and there, but he's saying that majority of the time, Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox are trying to debate atheists on the existence of God. And they're trying to give all of these philosophical arguments, and then they want to talk about, what this church father believed and what that church father believed and what the church said collectively at this period of time. And he's just like, he said, that's just a waste of time. So I'm like, this ain't no time to be wishy-washy. I mean, and it just seems like that he's just trying to maybe save face for Mel Gibson, because Mel Gibson went on there and he didn't look as well put together like somebody like Wes Huff. And again, Wes Huff is a different kind of guy. Mel Gibson isn't. So instead of trying to play damage control for Mel Gibson, who is a professing Catholic, Just give respect where respect is due. Yeah, Wes Huff went on there and did his thing. Hey, Trent, you going to talk about Mel Gibson? Yeah, I saw it. There's really nothing to talk about. He said some things on there that was kind of concerning. He said some things that I was like, all right, cool. But again, that's why when I started this, I started out in one of my earlier statements saying that as I'm starting to deal more and more with Roman Catholics, I'm starting to understand. I'm starting to ask this question, to have these concerns on whether or not are Catholics our brothers and sisters in the faith. And I'm not just trying to put a wedge in between Protestants and Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox because I just dislike them and they're not Protestants anymore, so I just have this hatred. No, it's just like some of the stuff that they accuse us with is some of the stuff that they say about us, some of the nasty comments that I get, and some of the things I done seen some of these people say to you guys, folks that I done had to block. It's like, are these Christians or not? You know, like I said, there's probably a few people that I can count on one hand that I can say, you know what, nah, I think that person is solid. Disagree with them on certain stuff. I think that they totally off, and I think that they're heading down a dangerous path. But I believe that their heart is in the right place. But at the same time, I'm still keeping my eye on them because I want to see which path they're going to take. Which kind of leads me back, because I'm actually, I'm about to get out of here in a minute. But I said all of this to get to this point here. Roman Catholics, and there's a couple of guys who have come out and they said that now they're going to start basically attacking Wes Huff. And I think it's simply because he's a Protestant. Let me tell you what done happened. Let me kind of give you guys a timeline. In the early 2000s, you had this new atheist movement that was happening, right? There is no God. We're just matter and material. We're just here to, a billion years ago, nothing exploded, created everything. And now here we are. And that gained some traction from like the early 2000s until what? I want to say maybe 2016, 2017. I want to say definitely by the time COVID started, a lot of people started kind of moving away from that atheist stuff, but they kind of had been moving away for a little bit. But now it's getting to a point, especially after COVID, people start looking at the world and saying, hey man, listen, it's some stuff going on. Things are happening, and just believing that I'm just put on this earth and just watching things just happen. Now it seemed like that there has to be some intrinsic value. I don't believe that we're just here for no reason. So a lot of people started moving away from atheism. This, quote unquote new atheism, where there's no God and there's nothing, we just here. So a lot of people are starting to figure out that that's foolish. All right. Even more so today, that's dying. Guess who's still here? Protestants. Not to mention all of the Protestants before. Killed, persecuted, burned at the stake. Even by those in the Roman Catholic Church. Got history of it. But anyway, 2020 comes along. I'll probably say maybe around 2016, 2017. As people started moving away from the new atheist movement, you started to have these mystics, the Billy Carsons, right? Guys like that. They started to become up and going like, okay, well, we don't really believe that there is no God. We believe that there is a higher power. We believe in the universe. But we believe that every religion is just a carbon copy of each other, especially Christianity. Christianity copied from ancient Egypt and the Babylonians and the Sumerians and all of that. It's all of the same story, which has been debunked. I was covering this at the early part of my channel, back in like 2016, 2017, I was dealing with all of that then. Then you had the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, you know what I'm saying? That started to kind of catch fire for a little bit. People hopped into that. That's dying. Protestants are still here. Now you have Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox. This little movement is starting to catch fire. Protestants are still here. And I remember JP. Shout out to JP. This is what put me on JP's radar, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and keep it a buck. Keep it 100. Where JP at? He's probably already live. JP might already be live. But anyway. JP made a video. A live stream. And he says that Protestants are getting their behinds kicked by Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox. So I did a response video to that. Because there was a lot of things that was happening within the past year. You know, that whole Steve Lawson thing had popped off. You know, what's the other thing? What's that other guy? The Morris guy. That was popping off. All of these scandals going on in the church. It just seemed like back-to-back stuff was just happening. You know what I'm saying? TD Jakes being named by Diddy. And I mean, you know, all of this stuff was happening. And a lot of people were getting ready to put a fork in Protestantism. But little did people know that God was working in the background. Little did people know that there was a conversation that was happening with Wes Huff and Billy Carson. And we all know what happened to that. And you know what's happening now? People are more intrigued about Christianity from a philosophical standpoint. People are starting to become interested not in just the church. People want to know about Jesus. People want to know, why should I follow Jesus? You see what I'm saying? That conversation between Billy and Wes Huff has gotten people more interested into who Christ is and what is his completed work on the cross. What did he accomplish? That's why Wes Huff has went from 12,000 subscribers to over 400,000 subscribers. Let me see if I can pull his, because I checked it today. I checked it earlier and it was like 407 or something like that. No, it's 404. Okay. Now, mind you, I checked this last week and he was only at 200 and something thousand. He was just a little bit over 200,000. But Wes Huff is at 404,000 subs right now. You see what I'm saying? So people are interested in these conversations. And Wes Huff has been dealing with this for a minute. He got videos, you know what? Let me see what's his oldest video. Let me pull this back up so y'all can see it in real time with me. All right, let's go to videos. And we're going to do the oldest. The oldest video that he has was 8 years ago. All right. So the oldest video that he got was 8 years ago and it has 1.3 thousand views. And he's been talking about this stuff. You know, he's been at conferences. Look at it. He's talking about Islam and apologetics. You know, so he's kind of been dealing with these things for quite a while. You know, just a couple of thousand views. Less than 2,000. Look at there. He only got 621 views here. Look at there, answering all of these questions. So he's been doing this for a minute. This ain't nothing new. We just found out about him. And the whole time, the Lord has been working with this man, raising him up for a time such as this. And just when we thought, a lot of us as Protestants, Even some of those who done jump ship and they done went into other directions. A lot of us, we continue to stand on our square. And now look now look what the Lord is doing. Christian apologetics is going into a different direction. It is. And I'm telling you, all you Roman Catholics who believe that by trying to critique Wes Huff is going to be a good thing, like I said earlier, this is going to be bad for you. This is going to be bad for you. This ain't going to work out the way you think it's going to work out. Because one thing about Wes Huff is that he is gaining respect from people, even from people who may not even be Christian. People respect this guy because of his decorum and his knowledge. Not because he's just a Protestant and he's wearing some nice clothes and he's, he just know how to, speak with a slick tongue. People asking him questions and he's answering it. Straight up, plainly. I see the way this is going to go. Catholics are going to start attacking Wes Huff. Wes Huff, he might respond, but then you got people who are going to respond to the attacks of Wes Huff. You already seen how a lot of these YouTube channels are growing just by putting Wes Huff on their thumbnails for their videos. I'm talking about, I done seen YouTube channels blow up overnight just reviewing the Wes Huff and Billy Carson debate. What's going to end up happening is that the Roman Catholic Church, they're going to attack Wes Huff and it's going to go south from there. And you know what's going to start happening? People going to start bringing out a whole bunch of stuff about the Roman Catholic Church. And I'm talking about stuff way more stuff than I'm bringing out. I'm telling you, just be on the lookout for that. People already, the Pope is already up under a microscope. The Roman Catholic Church is already up under a microscope. When people think about Christianity, I'm going to tell you like this. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. When people think about Christianity, they're not thinking about Roman Catholicism. They're thinking about Protestantism. And the fact that Wes Huff is reformed and he gives credit to guys like Martin Luther, John Calvin, and Zwingli, the Roman Catholics hate that. And that's one reason that they're going to start attacking Wes Huff. And when people start to see, hey, wait, Roman Catholics are attacking this guy who's respectful on huge platforms, this guy who talks about the gospel, this guy who is well studied. And they're going to say, you want us to do what? Come to the Roman Catholic Church? You know they're going to bring up all of the scandals that's been happening in the church. That's going to be rehashed and reopened. All of the Mariology and all of that stuff that people don't even rock with. When all of that stuff start being brought to the forefront, you're not going to be able to put that lid back on the jar. You're going to start seeing a lot of videos, a lot of negative videos going towards Roman Catholics. They are. It's going to be a lot of videos going towards the Roman Catholics. And just like I said, the stuff that Pope Francis is doing, there's a lot of Roman Catholics who's just ready to check out right now. But for whatever reason, they haven't checked out. But there's some people, people think that Roman Catholicism is this thing that is growing, people coming into this true church. Roman Catholicism is hanging by a thread right now. It is hanging by a thread. There's a lot of internal politics happening with the Roman Catholic Church. But see, they don't want to tell you that. Because us dumb Protestants, see, we're not trying to keep up with Roman Catholic, politics and all of that. Don't let this thing on the internet fool you, which a lot of Roman Catholics, they're going to end up finding out the hard way. The Lord is doing something right now. And trust me, it's not within the Roman Catholic Church. It's not with the church fathers. It's not with apostolic succession and all of that stuff. So let these guys continue to keep talking tough. Let them talk tough. Let them talk about you not in the right church and you in a church that was started by Martin Luther. People ain't gonna want to hear that. I'm gonna tell you that right now. When people start bringing up Martin Luther, Zwingli, and all of that stuff, people ain't gonna want to hear that. You think people gonna want to hear the gospel, or they gonna want to hear about the church fathers? Trent, I played the clip earlier. What did Trent Horn say? He's basically telling Roman Catholics, in a nutshell, y'all better step your game up because the Protestants are out here putting in work. Nobody's going to want to hear anything about the church fathers in apostolic succession. They're out here putting the work in. But I'm just dumb Protestant announcing. I don't know what I'm talking about. I didn't know what I was talking about when I was talking about the Black Hebrew Israelites. I said, watch, once Black Hebrew Israelism start to go mainstream and start to catch the eye of some of these bigger channels, and they start saying stuff about you guys and putting out articles and all of that, I said, it's a wrap. Black Hebrew Israelism is dying right now. These dudes splitting up, dudes done left this camp, they done started their own camp. This camp hate this camp fist fighting with that one. They're splintered off. Folks who are outside of the camps, folks who used to be tight with each other, making videos, slander videos against each other right now because they're splintered, exposing each other. I said that, and I told the Black Hebrew Israelites, I said, watch, this is going to happen. I said, y'all keep focusing on the church and the wicked church and trying to bring people out of Christianity and all of that stuff. I said, y'all ignoring the stuff that's happening in your own backyard. And what's going to happen is that when it rears its ugly head, it's going to divide y'all like crazy. And now they're divided like crazy. Some of these folks scared to call themselves Israelites now because of the negative connotations that come with it. Now you got a lot of these Roman Catholics. They want to tear down Protestantism. Oh, let's come together, Eastern Orthodox. Let's all come together and join hands and tear down the wicked Protestant church. That's been the problems of the church. And just like I warned them, I'm warning you again. You better take care of the stuff that's happening in your own backyard. Because when it rears its ugly head, some of y'all gonna be hurt. Because Roman Catholicism is a brand. A lot of people like to say, oh, it's a church. Roman Catholicism, if we're being honest, Roman Catholicism is a brand. And they're going to do whatever it takes to protect that brand. So don't think that, oh, this is just some legit church. When y'all start crashing out and the Roman Catholic Church starts to get pushback and everybody starts to push back against Roman Catholicism, you're going to start seeing guys like Trent Horn coming out doing damage control. And when he start making videos against some of y'all and some of the people that you follow, I can't believe Trent Horn said this about X, Y, and Z. Just be aware. just be aware. I'm telling you what's coming down the pike. But Protestants, we already know. We already know what's going to happen. What did Jesus say? Jesus said that I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And folks think that this is the Eastern Orthodox or the Roman Catholic Church. Church is bigger than that. It's bigger than the institution that a bunch of men came together and just said, well, this is us. Who's been persecuted throughout history and why? Everybody who has been persecuted and died for standing on the word of God, those are Christ's true church. It's not Roman Catholicism. Roman Catholicism has shed more Christian blood than anybody else. That's a fact. The Roman Catholic Church is the one that says that even if you shed your blood in the name of Christ, that you're still outside of the true faith, unless you're up under the Roman Catholic Church. And I brought this out plenty of times. The Roman Catholic Church is not the end all be all. We've seen persecution before in a Protestant church. We've seen it. And guess what? We're still here. When people count us out, we're still here and we're still standing. Every time it looks grim for Protestants, we always end up rising, because you know why? It's not us. It's the Lord who keeps us. It's not apostolic succession, church fathers, councils, history, tradition. It's not none of that stuff. It's not your works plus your grace and all of that stuff. It's the Lord. The Lord alone is the one who keeps us. And trust me, if we have to die for this, we're going to die for it. Because if they persecuted Christ, they're going to persecute us. How do we know that? Because that's what Christ said. So listen, I want y'all to continue to be encouraged. Especially all of my Protestant brothers and sisters, stay encouraged. Trust me, it sometimes it looks bad. Yeah, that's because we live in a fallen world. Stay faithful to the word of God. For those who got YouTube channels and it seems like that, oh, you know what? It doesn't really seem like many people are watching my stuff. Stay encouraged. Stay encouraged. I remember a guy, he used to come here, he used to mock me, just maybe about 8 months ago. Maybe about a year ago. He used to mock me. Oh, you only get 5 views, you only getting 5 views on your live streams. Now look at me. Now I got over 60 people watching. And that's just now. Who knows what the Lord is doing? You know how many people I got watching some of my old videos, commenting on my videos today that I ain't done in like 8 years. Folks sending me emails and messages saying that, man, you did this video on this, that, and the third. And I'm like, man, I did that like 6 years ago. Man, it don't matter, man. That was just so edifying to me. It's not me, it's the Lord. It's the Lord. And the Lord knows what he's doing. This ain't no coincidence that this whole thing took place with Wes Huff and Billy Carson. God uses those situations to do what? To bring his to himself. You're not going to get that in the Eastern Orthodox and the Roman Catholic Church. You're not. It's the workings of the Holy Spirit and him alone. And this is where we get our joy from. We don't care about councils and this man and that man and who said what. We get our joy from the Lord. So I take this time to rejoice, man, and just really keep an eye out on what the Lord is doing. And we see what the Lord is doing. That's right. Amen. For his glory, Simon. Yep. Grace and peace, Ja Tony. Brother Ja Tony. I don't know if I gave you a horn and a hand clap earlier, but give you another horn and hand clap. I think I saw you come in a little bit later. Listen, man. Let's go back to this poll. I want to read this. These final results. And see what y'all got to say before we get up out of here. I'm asking, live chat only on YouTube, is Wes Huff a wolf and a liar? So far, 8% of you say yes, Mark in the void. 58% of you say no, God is working through him. 9% of you say I see good and bad things. And 25% of you say I still don't know about him. All right, listen, man. But as we get ready to get up out of here, listen, y'all continue to pray for a lot of people who have fallen into a lot of these ideologies, fables, and myths false teachings. You know, pray for those, and I mean sincerely. I'm not trying to be obtuse. I'm not trying to be condescending, but yes, listen, please pray for those who are in Roman Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. Because, I mean, we see what's going on. The Lord has removed the scales from our eyes so we can see clearly. And listen, continue to preach the gospel to them. Don't allow people to mock you and scoff you and make you feel bad because you want to talk about the Bible and you want to talk about what thus saith the Lord. That's not a problem that you have. That's a problem that they have. And when somebody claims to be a Christian, they don't want to hear about the gospel, they don't want to talk about the good news of Jesus Christ, then that should let you know exactly where these people are. There's nobody who is filled with the Holy Spirit who don't want to talk about the goodness of Christ and his completed work on the cross. Continue to give people the gospel. Continue to do that. Who knows? And sometimes, by God's grace, it may be you that may bring somebody back to the faith. You see what I'm saying? So, even if it is just one or two people that you may bring to the faith, God still gets all the glory, but stay faithful. Stay faithful. All right, listen, man. I'm about to get up out of here. Go ahead and hit that like button. Hit that notifications bell if you are a new subscriber to the channel. All right, because listen, I got some live streams coming up and I might be dropping some content in between. Okay. Tomorrow I want to talk about Cyril Lucaris. Okay. He is a guy that is, he was an Eastern Orthodox patriot, or he's an Orthodox patriarch, I would say. Orthodox patriarch who was a Calvinist. Now y'all know that these Eastern Orthodox folks talking about they rail against Calvinism and how Calvinism is all, bad and it destroyed the church. But let's talk about this guy who was over the who had a high position in the Orthodox Church, and he liked John Calvin. All right, he had a high reverence for John Calvin. We're gonna be talking about that tomorrow. We're gonna be talking about that. All right, listen. I'm about to get ready to get up out of here. Y'all already know what to do. Like this video, rate it, share it, subscribe, hit that notifications bell once again. And I'll see you guys next time, Lord willing. Peace.